Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. I want to go over with you the order on defendant's motion to suppress regarding genetic information, IGG, which was denied. That motion was denied. One of the most hotly contested issues in this entire case. It's an important filing for those of us that have been interested in some of the facts that have been hidden behind seal and in filings that are not provided to the public on the public docket. We're going to go over this filing to simply identify a few areas where new information has been disclosed, and then we're going to come back to it and go over the legal reasons, the standard of review as to why Judge Stephen J. Hippler denied this order. The first item that we should look at, it's page 1, dated February 19th, on the Idaho cases of judicial interest under State of Idaho versus Brian C. Kohberger. Go down to the public docket. Please open it up on your smartphone, your computer, and if you haven't had a chance, please read it. Real important order, in my opinion. Judge Hippler begins with an introduction. He gives a background of the tragic events that happened at 1122 King Road, that law enforcement officials found the sheath where it was found. It was at the crime scene, testing to try to come up with a profile to determine who this was. Who did this DNA belong to? Well, we're going to find out through this order the process of when it first was evaluated to where it went next, and then finally how it got to the feds. Page 1. Defense asserts law enforcement violated his constitutional rights by failing to secure a warrant before conducting the IGG and trash pull. That's from garbage that was discarded at the house where Mr. Kohberger was on the day of his arrest, December 30th, 2022, in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, Monroe County. The next paragraph, the court talks about the suppression hearing that was held January 23rd, 2025, during which time the court received testimony from members of law enforcement and experts in IGG. So we're finding out for the first time who gave the testimony behind closed doors in that closed to the public session of January 23rd. And moreover, Judge Hippler is giving the names of these witnesses. He's saying that all of them were credible and reliable to him. Specifically, bottom of page number 1, footnote 1, the court received testimony from Detective Corporal Brett Payne, Rylene Nolan, Matthew Garnett, Daniel Helwig, and Leah Larkin. Going on to page number 2, after the court says suppression is not warranted here. We're going to get into the legal arguments in the next portion of this presentation. We're going to skip over the legal standard, top of page 2. Let's go into findings of fact. The court repeats what happened November 13th. There was a horrible event, 1122 King Road. And a K-bar sheath was found on a bed next to Kaylee and Maddie. Law enforcement seized it and swabbed around the button of the sheath. A sample of DNA identified as Q1.1 was extracted from the swab by Idaho State Police Forensics Lab, subsequently tested using standard DNA STR. They uploaded this DNA profile to CODIS database, but it resulted in no hits known to offenders, and the court here provides us with this information. CODIS is the Combined DNA Index System, a national DNA database. No hits there. So then, what are they going to do next? Tells us here. Law enforcement made the decision to pursue forensic investigative genetic genealogy, IGG, on Q1.1. Such testing began with the generation of a large amount of raw sequencing data from the DNA sample. Then it says, it talks about, let's go to page number 3. We are told here about the IGG process. So you can read into what it is comprised of, but paragraph number 2, new information. The IGG was first performed by Othram Labs. First time we're having a confirmation of this fact, in my opinion. A company with which the Idaho Department of Purchasing had an existing contract. Othram was asked to develop an SMP profile from Q1.1, upload it into those public genealogy databases permitting law enforcement entry, and submit a preliminary report, of which they did. The ISP delivered Q1.1 to Othram on November 22nd, 2022, so we're getting this information for the first time. In the past, reported on the Indie Zone podcast that the Idaho Statesman had gotten a hold of some information in the Kohberger case. This was a while ago, and one thing was a bill, an invoice from Othram. It was dated November 29th, 2022. So there was some educated speculation. Was that the date that the profile that they were asked to begin work? Nope. We see here that it happened much earlier, November 22nd, 2022. So Othram developed an SMP profile from Q1.1 and searched Family Tree DNA and GEDmatch Pro. We go on to the next page and learn some additional details not before known to the public. This is page number 4. On December 10th, 2022, members of law enforcement, including the feds, had a meeting to discuss Othram's work, and as a result, a decision was made to turn the IGG work over to the feds. This did not happen until December 10th. Up through that time, it was first the ISP, then Othram working with the ISP. Now there's this meeting, and it was decided that the feds would now conduct the work. As a result, a decision was made to turn over the IGG work to the feds. That same day, Othram was instructed, stop working, turn over your SMP profile, and search results to the Idaho State Police. Othram did so along with a preliminary report of its findings, which did not contain any medical information associated with the SMP profile. Now, I'm going to skip over the next part. This is a very hotly contested issue. We're going to come back to it, of the policies, the internal policies and procedures that Ms. Taylor has talked about, including at the hearings on January 23rd and 24th. This is an interim policy that's quoted here. You can certainly read it. We're going to come back to it later, but I want to go to the bottom of page 4. From the information it acquired through the database search, it was able to build a family tree and arrive at a potential match. December 19th, 2022, they identified the defendant's name to Idaho law enforcement as a possible source of the DNA. The feds instructed that the identification of Mr. Kohberger as a person of interest was to be considered solely as a tip. So we're learning here for the first time that Mr. Kohberger was officially considered a person of interest on December 19th, 2022, and not before. There has been long-term speculation that he began becoming a person of interest when those two law enforcement officials from the WSU State Police, both on the same day, end of November, turned over Mr. Kohberger's details regarding his car to the tip line. Nope, it's not until December 19th that he was considered a person of interest. One more detail I wanted to save for the last part here. It says here at the bottom of page 3, the ISP delivered Q11 to Othram, as we said, on November 22nd. Othram developed a SNP profile. This work revealed 4 brothers of interest, all of whom were low matches. To Q1.1. To further its family tree building, Othram asked the ISP to contact one of the identified, these 4 brothers, and ask if they or he would turn over a direct DNA sample. He declined. The court also says here, it's the bottom of page 3, it's footnote 5. He points out, the judge, these brothers do not share Mr. Kohberger's last name. As sort of some information, inside information, please don't go looking after people who have the Kohberger name to try to determine who this brother is. He doesn't share the last name. This will now conclude this episode of the Indie Zone, where we will leave, digest what we've learned here, continue in our next episode reviewing this order denying the motion to suppress IGG DNA evidence. This is Kathy. Thank you for joining us here today.